Hello, everyone, and welcome to the session. Today, we're going to talk about Gen AI for enterprises. So, give us some few minutes as we get started here. I'm doing this for the first time, and so I'm hoping people are out there listening, and it's silence for me. People, if you can hear me, please say yes in the chat. Okay, all right. So let's get started here. I'll share my screen. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. So, as I said, we'll be talking about Gen AI for enterprises. That's an exciting topic. So, we'll talk about two simple things today. One is moving from hype to clarity in terms of AI. There's a lot of hype, confusion around AI. So, I just wanted to see if we can demystify it a bit for every one of us. And then, second, we'll talk about how we can go from zero to one in enterprises. Is again a lot of fear and a fog and confusion in enterprises. So, how we can go from zero to one and in enterprises is what we'll talk about. So first, let's start with the AI and the hype buzzwords around AI. I shared this yesterday, and it's a pretty good response about it. So there's a lot of confusion about AI and what it is about, right? So AI is been a journey we've been for forever, right? Since times immemorial, we wanted things which is as intelligent as us. And believe it or not, we're at that stage. We have got something which is almost as intelligent as people, and probably soon maybe even surpass it. So AI is that broad field where it's basically a fancy name for machines showing intelligent behavior. And we've been on that journey, as I said, and we started with rule-based AI, which is basically giving it some rules, and based on it, it gives an output. And then we discovered that we can give it a lot of data and it can give outputs by recognizing the patterns, and that's what is machine learning. And with machine learning, we've come quite a bit, and the intelligence that we see today in terms of LLMs or GPT is a form of machine learning. So machine learning was more about giving it explicit data, like you give it data about fraud, and then it outputs that okay, this could be a fraud. It flags it as a fraud and tells us. Then we said, okay, machine learning is just pattern recognition. How about something which mimics our brain? So we took some nodes and then started training that with back propagation, forward propagation, and then that's what we're calling as neural network, but basically trying to mimic our human brain. And then we said, that's not complicated enough, so let's try more layers of this neural networks, and like I think more than three, we start calling it as deep learning. So what has happened is over a period of time is that we've got a very complex AI now, which where we put an input and we get an output when nobody really knows what actually happens, but we know at a very high level what's happening, and that's what we'll talk about. So that's that. So right now with the transformer model, we've got this LLMs and generative AI. LLMs is nothing but a text generator. So it basically what it's doing is it's picking a next text based on what it thinks is right. So if you look at the OpenAI playground, you can actually see how it picks the probability. So it just picking the next word in the sequence, and the sequence, whichever is most probable to it. But the bigger thing, I think the bigger concept to understand is the vector databases. And I think that's what makes this possible. So think of it like shows a three-dimensional view here, but think of it as a multi-dimensional universe where you have multiple things, right? There, like say here we have something like a dog. It's one point out there, and then for each of that points, data points, you've got characteristics attached to it. Like here, just to make it simple, for a dog, for example, we are saying that the animalness of the dog is probably zero point 0.9 because it's an animal mostly, and probably less of a fruit, like a zero of a fruit, right? So whenever we are giving it some input, or the next word in the sequence is basically decided depending on which part of this multiverse, or if you will, which part of this dimension this uh, text is. Okay, so now one more thing to understand is that it's not just text. The AI can do this for many digital components, whether it is images or videos. We have seen that happen, but think of it, it can even do DNA sequences, it can do it for drug discovery. So it opens up a lot more possibilities, and that's where we call it as foundational models. So we are at a place where we have foundational models, which is quite powerful, which is, as I said, in terms of human intelligence in many factors, like language recognition, speech recognition, image recognition. Many of those things, it's meeting that intelligence. And so we've got a powerful AI right now, and that's what is happening, right? So we've got a powerful AI, but why should we even be bothered about it? I think it's the shifts that's happening that we need to be understanding. That's what makes it powerful. So, for example, look at the image recognition we spoke about just now. Like even image recognition it can do, or image generation it can do. So, look at Midjourney. Within 3 months, it went from that V1, which is shown here, to V5.1, which is a much greater improvement. So, it's basically very exponential development. So, even before we know it, we would have much improved AI. So right now it's almost at that intelligence level. It could keep on improving, increasing, right? And GPT, as we know, it took just 5 days for it to reach a million users, whereas Netflix took like around 3.5 years. So, we're looking at an exponential shift in terms of businesses as well, and that's what we need to be understand. We need to be careful about, or we need to be cognizant about, is that businesses that embrace AI can suddenly overshoot what you are doing and get much better than what you're doing. And 5 days is incidentally how much time it took Sam Altman to return to OpenAI. So again, people using AI becoming more powerful. So one more shift I wanted to talk about is the evolution of programming, right? And we've many of the people, my audience, they are from IT, and we've seen this shift happen from abstraction of computers. We've been, first we were doing machine code assembly, then we were doing COBOL and C++, and then to low code and to no code. So we've been on this journey from of abstraction for quite some time. But each of these things, what we were doing is we were telling the computers explicitly what we need to do, right? We were telling computer, this is we give it an instruction, and even if it is no code, we were giving it an instruction, and then it was giving us an output. So we were explicitly telling it. But now we are at that stage, or a fork in the road, where we are moving from explicit instructions to the computer, as I said, being very intelligent. And so we're going to work with the computers. And so there is advantages and disadvantages to that, right? So the computer, we are not explicitly telling it what to do. We are in a way telling it what we want it, but it will give you an output which may not be exactly what you're looking at. So it can hallucinate, but it is also powerful. But the point here is that compared to earlier when we were giving explicit instructions, what we're doing here is learning to work with AI, and a powerful assistant, which today is similar in intelligence, maybe higher in intelligence. So how do we learn to work with AI is, I think, what we need to understand. And how to work with AI right now is prompting. And I know many of us is like, oh, prompting, that's a simple thing, right? Yes, it's English, and so we think that that's not a big deal, and it's Chat GPT. It is more of chatting. But what I would say that is that it is easy but not simple. So getting the AI, since I've been working with it to get it to what it needs to do, like I said, it hallucinates, it goes in various directions, but we need to work with it to get it to do what we want to do, and that's what I'll show you in a minute. But so that's the difference between prompt and prompt engineering. And many of us, I think 90%, are in prompt stage, looking at all these thousands of prompts which is shared on social media and the hype around AI. And then, yes, you can see the power of AI with it, but it's not working for you fully, right? So that's where prompt engineering comes in. It's a process of designing the prompts to get the foundation model to do what you want to do. So, uh, so just to clarify, everything that we have going forward, I think would be a lot based on prompting. And just to reinforce my point that prompting is important, and think of prompting, as I said, not as a way like in English and I'm telling the AI what to do and it's very simple, but instead think of a way that this is how I would be training the AI to be like me and working for my outputs that I need. So let's look at, let's say, AI applications. So applications, as I said, we've come from low code to no code, and now we'll be getting to a stage where we'll be prompting it to build applications. Google Stubs is an example. This is one app I have called Frontly. I just give it an app and I told it to build an app so that I can decipher sales insight by uploading a sales file, call file. So I just gave it a prompt, and this is the app it generated. So I can click on this button and upload a file, which is the call recording, and then it can give me insights on the dashboard. So it's a simple way for it to generate apps as well. So it basically generates a skeleton app, and then you probably have to work around with it, but that's one way you're using to build apps. So that's uh, again, you're using prompting to build apps. And then automation. So automation, we've all been doing workflow automation, and AI is becoming more and more very important for that. So here is one workflow automation. So again, taking the sales insight into consideration. So let's say a sales recording is done, a new file is created, and let's say it's put on OneDrive. You can transcribe that audio using AI, and then you can ask ChatGPT to, or ask AI to generate insights from the call, right? And then it actually send an email. So automation also, we are into lot prompting to using this powerful AI. And finally, the co-pilots. And co-pilots, we know, I mean, it's basically prompts. And so here I just clicked on this and it generated a program for me. But it's co-pilots are coming into the enterprise through Microsoft 365. This is what you will be getting. But within the enterprise, the Microsoft 365 co-pilot will be trained on the data from your enterprise. And so it will be much more powerful. You will be getting information based for your work, right? You can prompt it and get it to do the work. But the key point is that it's all about prompting. It's the way to get AI to work, at least now, is through prompting. And it will get different in future. Prompting will improve. The AI probably will find a way to question us and get the inputs. But then it will get to a stage, it will be better, but you will continue to work with AI in my mind. And so we need to start learning how to work with AI, and that's the key point. And if you're still not convinced, there's a whole ecosystem, even for programming, coming where it's all based on prompts, right? Like the playground is where we fine tune the prompts so that it works for you. And as I said, it's not explicit, and it can be it's a bit probabilistic. So you need to get to fine tune the prompt. There is a validation framework to understand whether the prompt, whether the AI is giving the output or flag it and things like that. There's an orchestration engine. But the point is that it's all based on prompting, and right now at least so the way to work with AI, so the shift is in terms of explicit programming to working with the AI and AI assistant. And so the way to work with it is through prompts, at least now. So one of the ways I think is to learn to work with prompts, right? So so I just wanted to show you how to prompt AI better, and this is part of my course, and I call it ICE prompting framework. So I'll just show you how this works. So just be with me. So if you have Chat GPT, fire it up, and maybe you can also try this with me. So let's take a simple prompt, right? So I've got a simple prompt here. So you can also give this prompt, and it's just give a prompt which says write a report for X, right? And this is what most of us do, and this is how I started too. It's a great start. So if you see this, a good advantage with this is that it gives you a wide range of ideas. It says, so I gave it a prompt like Gen AI, how a Gen AI can change business. So it gives you like personalization, creativity. So if you want ideas, is open prompt is a great idea. But if you want the AI to work better, you want to give it clear instructions. So a clear instruction is something where you're giving it exactly what the task you want to do. So one of the things people have found is that act as is a good way to get it to do the things you want. And I think it's because, as we discussed earlier, the whole vector space, if you say act as a big four consultant, management consultant, as I'm doing here, what it does is that it actually goes and uh, looks at all the knowledge space which is near all the big four consultants like Deloitte or PwC and things like that, and then it comes back with a better output. So because I'm also telling that my client is Amazon, it looks for yeah, it's an e-commerce company, so let me look for ideas and create a report based on that. So it generates that for like it's a very open report, supply chain optimization, implementation, and things like that. Now that's one thing. So that's first step in terms of making the prompt better. But if you want the prompt to actually work for you, you want it to be like you, which means that you're giving it your company's background, giving it some notes like you want a report, but what do you want in the report? What are the points you want in the report? What is your brand look like? What's your messaging look like? What's your audience look like? So all that when you're giving, what happens is that when you give it a context, it gets much better because other than instruction, I'm giving it a context, and then you can see that it generates a much better report. It says it's a strategic report, it's for this company, it's an executive summary, it gives a good report. It even goes on to give a report prepared by good touch and conclusion and all that, right? So you see that once you give it a context, it's giving you an output which is more attuned to what you want. Now, this is a great next step, right? And you've got an output which probably you can take and you can copy it and send it out. Now, supposing you want it to be slightly more better in terms of the format that it is generating, we want to give it some examples. So I'm giving it some examples like this is the format I like the report because I like it in the way I want it. So I want an introduction section which is the title and a 3 sentence intro. So it does that. It takes the introduction and then gives a 3 sentence intro, then it gives a potential impact I want as a heading, and I said 2 sentence followed by bullets. So it gives a 2 sentence followed by bullets. But the point is that you can gradually get the AI to work better for you, for your needs. So you went from a wild AI generating some ideas and some outlines to generating a complete report. And that's where that's what we have actually distilled down into a framework called as a prompt framework. Um, so the prompt framework is got just 3 things, and I kept it bare bones so that prompting can change a lot as we progress. But at least if you know what are the basics, hopefully we can apply it. So it consists of three things. Instructions. So instructions is where you are telling it exactly what you want it to do, and this is a key part, and you have to give an instruction. And as we saw earlier, the better the instructions, the better it can give you an output. You give it a context and make it be like you, like we saw earlier, your background, your notes, it makes it better. And then if you give it examples, which is a format, it becomes even better. So that's the, and we have an acronym of ICE, IICE, instructions, context, and example. So that's something pretty popular with our people. So I thought I'll share with you in terms of the prompt framework. So just stepping back, so you've got an AI which is powerful, and there's a way to get it to work, and that's through this prompting, and it's art and a science, right? And so we've got and we've understood that this is how we can work with AI, and this is how we work going forward. And as part of our cohort, that's what we do, is basically help people understand the basics, what, why, and how you can work with it. So I just wanted to share with you, and that's part of our cohort coming up in few days. So if you guys want to join, so the link is I'll leave a link in the comment section. Okay, so I've spoken quite a bit. Before I go to the next section, I just wanted to bring in some of our community members here, and I'm working with this studio thing for the first time. So let me bring in some of our community members here and talk to them. Hi, Sachin, can you hear me?
I'm here.
Hi. So I'm using this for the first time. So were you guys able to hear me out?
We were.
Okay, okay. So so any thoughts on the AI thing so far?
As a whole,
Yeah,
yeah. No, it's I mean, it's a it's dynamic, right? It's ever changing. Anytime you think that you don't. So to base on where we're at when it comes to technology and how we got here. I mean, you stated it earlier, Nandan. It's we've AI has been around, right? The technology's been here. It's not like AI just magically appeared yesterday.
right,
And so, I mean, if we think about how this technology has been kind of traveling through time, and how things have gone. I mean, we've had machine learning, we've had analytics and predictive analytics. Data is nothing anyone has been short of. So it's all really good information now. What the introduction of things like Gen AI and chat and all those things, it's really commercialized. Uh, the 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 usage to folks that aren't necessarily .NET folks or coders or folks that know a specific language and have script writing and prompts and things like that, like you said. But it's opened up to an environment of folks that are in fashion, folks that are in marketing. There's so much more ideas now forming of where you can utilize technology like this to go more mainstream. That's why it's as popular as it is, because when you're able to get 1 million users in 5 days, that's amazing. Why? It's not 1 million coders that it signed up, not 1 million prompt engineers, and it wasn't any of that. It was a combination of that plus just curious folks, right?
right,
So the idea of where this technology goes and where it can go, and uh, the rise of it. Obviously, there's all this positive stuff, but there's obviously the other side of the world too, where there's good folks that are going to use it and bad folks that are going to use it. And so that's just aligning in the enterprise side of the world. It's how do you prepare for it, and how do you catch up to it? How do you set your security and guidance around um, governance and risk to align with now, not just the what we, when COVID hit, it was about the digital worker and everyone working from home and all those things, and your umbrella of reach had to reach out to where their homes were at and all that. But now your umbrella of reach has to reach out to the rest of the world. And
Yeah.
so understanding that and acknowledging that is going to be critical, because not it's adoption is happening from a lot of folks. And
Mhm.
so a lot of folks have told me, I want to make sure we protect our house,
Right.
and using that analogy, right? And we want to make sure we protect our house when it comes to this AI stuff. I'm like, that's great, but how do you know what's already inside your house?
Exactly.
So that's the other piece of this that most people don't understand, is that, well, this is great for putting the walls up, but what's already inside? So you have to create the parameters around that, and that's where we talk about all those types of things, and that's where I think this environment and this group can really be able to do that with kind of the larger audience, and it doesn't have to have a biases based on an affinity to one technology or one. It's not a technology problem. It's not. It's a problem of looking at finding solutions to make your day easier and make your life easier, and that's how you have to look at this stuff. The same thing happened with process automation. The same thing happened with digital transformation and all those other things too, right? So it's all been there. It's just a matter of how you apply it now to your world, and again, what's in it for you when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And sorry, I'm looking down because my monitor with you is down. But I think you mentioned a great point there about COVID, right? Because one is the digital aspect of COVID, everything becoming digital. But also, I think is about the exponential nature of COVID, because we were all thinking that, yeah, it's there in China and it's fine, and suddenly it started hitting you, right? And so that exponential nature, I think, is also something to consider with AI, because businesses suddenly will be exponential, and then it could come and disrupt you, right?
Absolutely. Again, it was never about like, and when using the COVID analogy, right? COVID's like, well, it's there, it's here, and but you don't know what's tomorrow, right? So what's the next iteration of this, or what's the next thing that happens? I mean, I remember we were all worried about bird flu right before that, and we are worried about monkeypox and and killer bees and all those other things too. So there's always something to worry about. There's always something that's there that you have a potential risk to hurt you, right? So all you can do is prepare as best as you can. You've got things out there. I mean, AI is not just one thing, right? AI is an incorporation of natural language processing and robotics and rules and processes and uh, deep learning and speech to the text and image to text and all this kind of fun stuff, right? And there's so many things that involve with that, but at its core, you're talking about Python and VB and Java and all that other stuff, right? Now, all of us that can nerd out on that back end stuff is great, but most people don't want to see that, right? So the idea is, this type of technology, the idea behind it is it's back end stuff. There's a lot of back end stuff that now you don't have to be a back end guy and know
Hmm.
how to use it, right? So the
Exactly.
idea is you can learn this technology, you can sit on it and go, well, we can take care this all that back office stuff, and I don't have to worry about that, and I don't have to put a ticket in, and I can create AI. Using AI, I can create things to make my world easier, the automations, right? And it's all about the processes. Then it's all about the things that you're trying to do with it, right? I've never needed uh, a technology to go, you know what, create me a report and to have it do this, but in the voice of Snoopy. I didn't care, but I find out that I can do that. But it's because it's fun, right? But the back side of that is, what if I put in information into a report that's going out to chat that was proprietary to my organization? Now, I had this question actually come up yesterday, where like, well, we've already had governance in place. We've had all this stuff in place already. Why would that didn't change at all? And my question was, have you ever had it at this scale and accessibility? Do you believe that the guidelines that you created 5 years ago are still relevant, and
Right.
could they be tightened up? So, and this was with a CISO. right? So a CISO was telling me we've had governance in place around data and what should and shouldn't be and guidelines. There's HIPAA, there's this, there's that, all those things. I'm like, that's great. And so no one has ever in the 5 years that process has gone in has ever sent an email incorrectly or sent out a thing internally. And he goes, oh, well, of course. He goes, well, then it's a great way to. This is a great way to, just like COVID, to re-educate on what's possible and maybe just to tighten things up, right? So that's what we're hearing a lot of in the industry. It's not just about back office and way back office and then like front office, but now you're talking about like delivery of that to improve your citizen and resident and employee experience, right? And that's what this kind of stuff is on the enterprise level. But you've got to figure out good use cases at the end of the day that make sense and accessibility for, because you don't want to hold down your teams to be able to use the technology, right? So that's, you've got to create either your own version of stuff or you've got to figure out a better way that from a governance perspective that you mandate how it's being used at your organizations.
Yeah, and so what have you found in terms of using a community to keep up with AI governance and use cases and things like that?
So the community here, I think, has been really good about the fact that you have access to industry leaders and organizational leaders in a space where it's almost like a safe space, right? We use that word, and I'm not a big fan of it, but I get it. I'm a military guy, so we didn't have safe spaces, so safe. There wasn't anything safe where we were at.
There's
Anyways,
never anything safe, right?
there's
Yeah.
nothing's safe, right? So we talk about it, it's this is an environment where we get all the folks with all these different perspectives, right? Folks from industries in retail and the engineering side and specialty and just all sorts of fields, giving you their feedback based on what their questions are, and it's not to sell you something, right? It's a great way for collaboration. It's a great way to interact with each other and go, you know what? Let's create a formalized like a checklist of really good things to do, and what are the things that we should be concerned about. Oh, well, I've seen this and I've seen that. That's fantastic. And it's not, it's kind of on its own island, right? It's not a, hey, this is being sponsored by Google, right? This is being sponsored by AWS. This is being sponsored by Microsoft. That's how this is a really cool environment, because of the fact that you have access to all these resources without it being something where you're getting a commercial, right? The idea
Right.
is we are a group of folks that want to learn more about this space and have the experience within the space, and everyone's perspective is different because I'm more of an evangelist. I'm more of someone who would come in and say, you know what, this is how this technology is and it isn't, and where it could and it couldn't be, but a lot of the whys, right? But if I want to go in deep and we want to go down to the widgets and down to the granular pieces of the technology and why this particular thing doesn't work well with this or this works better with this, we have folks in the room that can absolutely chime in and give you their feedback based on their experiences, right? And that's where it's cool, because you don't have to put a ticket in to go and ask and figure out. I know it's a hard thing that's not as easy in my organization either. So that's what makes this really a great environment to be. Just it's conducive of additional learning, and I'm always learning, right? And I some folks would call me an expert in one thing or another, but then I'm always learning more when I come to these things. I'm always better for it afterwards.
All right. Thank you. Bring in Rupak. Hi, Rupak. How
Hey,
are
how are
you?
you?
Good, good, good. Any quick thoughts on the community before we move to the next thing?
No, when you say any quick thoughts on the community in terms of AI community or
Yes.
what?
Yeah, your general thoughts on how the community is helping in terms of keeping up with AI and automation and things
Okay.
like that.
So first and foremost, I think I've been always proponent of what you have been bringing to light as this Gen AI and AI is expanding, evolving, and going in directions where we can not even fathom. Uh,
Right.
Community, what you have built up, and the content, the messages, the area of knowledge, understanding what you bring, of course, through the help of our community leaders, is absolutely fantastic because it is distilling so many information which is out there. And so instead of becoming and lost, I think there was a word earlier, information mania, or when there is like proliferation of the information. I think there was a word earlier,
Right. Deluge. Information deluge.
deluge.
Yeah.
This community, our club, and your platform is bringing to navigate in this ocean of AI and automation and the space to really navigate in a concise, focused, and a direct individual goal perspective, and not to stay astray without having the lighthouse. And I believe our community and you are the lighthouse. So I think I'm giving a lot of praise, but it is all worth it. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Rupert. Thank you for that. So let's just continue with this one. and and okay. All right. So let's continue with our journey here. So we've seen how AI has become really powerful, and we are looking to work with an AI assistant. And the way to work with an AI assistant right now is through AI prompting, and it could change in future. Um, Okay, sorry, I'm just working with the studio for the first time. So, all right, so the let's look at how enterprises are doing it, and I want to share that with you through a case study. It's one of the companies in our community, one of the members in our community who have implemented it, and so I just want to share with you. So, one of the things I see with a lot of the enterprises, the big obstacles is three. And again, this framework is based on one of our community members, Mario Lazo. I changed it a bit, but it's a great framework. So that I thought I'll share with you guys. So the problem we see is fog. One is confusion. There's a lot of fear, the FOMO, fear of missing out, and so how to proceed is something people don't understand. What is AI? Why do I need to be caring about AI? And that's what we looked at in the first part of the presentation. What is AI and why do you need to be caring about it? As I said, as we saw, and like what Sachin said, businesses will just shoot past with this exponential technology. So we just need to be ready for it. And if you take AI prompting lightly, it's a way to work with AI, and so it's a time to get started understanding how to work with AI, and that's what we do in our community, helping all of us together understand how we can work with AI as we move forward. The second thing is the fear, right? The fear is like Samsung put out this chat GPT, and then employees leaked their data. So a lot of this problem is, the data could be leaked. How protected is my data for this one? And that's one of the key things I hear. The other is obviously the legal issues, using some other, the AI model, which is trained on a lot of data, and somebody could go take up a legal case against you for using the data. And also ethics, bias, security risks. So all these things is something that holding people back in terms of AI. And then the third is financial. Yeah, okay. Even if I got across the fear and I want to implement it, does it have an impact? I mean, it's just prompting. Does it have? It seems to be a text generator. Does it work? So those are the three things that we see, and so I think we've addressed the fog in the front, and so the next is the fear of how do we implement it and how do we go past that. So this in this case study, in this case, what people have done, what this person has done or this leader has done, is bring in the right people on board first itself. Bring in a buy-in. So bring in the chief security officer. Like Sachin said, a lot of security, and we said just no fear. The security strategy, all these things are important. So bring these people on board. initially itself, and bring them on board, and should tell them the possibilities as well as what could happen if you don't embrace AI. But the bigger thing that this company did was choose the right partnership. And I think that's very important, because many of the people are stuck because of all these concerns of data leakage, of security issues. So what this company, Microsoft, and this can be any partner, it can be Google or any of these companies, but they partnered with Microsoft and Azure OpenAI. So what Azure does is that you've got, and I'm not propagating Azure or Microsoft here, but I have nothing for them, but I'm just saying that's one way that they did it. And you can look at such options in having a right partner. So if you have Azure, then your data, they give you an assurance that it is protected. It is not used for model training. And then they also ensure that you get a legal backing. And I hear from him that that's very important, because Microsoft says that if you have any problem in terms of legal, in terms of governance, we'll take care of it. So that being having a right partner is very important, and that takes you from that fear to, yes, maybe I can implement at least the first use case and see. And using right frameworks, understanding what responsible AI is, coming with the teams across the globe. This is what they did, and coming up with a framework for implementing AI, especially responsible AI that meets their standards for the organization as well as their ethical standards and transparency. And finally, the security aspect, they did some encryption to ensure that the data is encrypted. So, but the point is that to go past fears, find the right people, find the right partnership, find the right frameworks, so that you can start implementing AI. Take steps to go to the first use case that you can implement, and so that you can start implementing it. So now, if you're thinking of use cases, how do I get to the first use case? How do I identify use cases? So this is one framework I follow to get ideas of the use case. And this is just ideas, mind you. It's not the use case that you can implement, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the ideas for use cases for your enterprise, you want to look at the impact or the levers that you have, right? Like, usually the impact that you can bring is in terms of 4 or 5 areas mainly, which is either you can increase the revenue, or you can decrease the cost, or you can improve the people experience, which is a big one right now, and then also maybe compliance, security, that kind of thing, right? So for that impact that you want, and then look at the capabilities that AI is coming up with. So the AI capabilities will keep on improving. So the previous version, like a rule-based AI, you could do a lot of automation. You still can do, as we saw, automation is one big thing for Gen AI as well. But it brings in new things like content creation, summarization, software development. You might have heard of GitHub Copilot, right? Extracting info from text and other kind of PDF documents, which is a big one, because 80% of the data is still unstructured. So translation, various things that you can use AI for. So how do I map these capabilities for with each of these levers? And what I've done is I've taken all these capabilities and looked at how it can impact each of the groups within an organization. Let's say finance, HR, marketing, and then come up with use cases. Like, for example, automation. Apply it to finance. You can do report generation automation. You can do month-end close automation. You can do multiple automations within finance. You take content creation for HR. What can you do? I can create job descriptions for HR, right? Or if you take summarization, you can summarize your sales calls, as we saw earlier. So ton of use cases out there which you can get inspired by. But then it doesn't end there, because these use cases may not be what can be applied in your organization. They can be different from for each organization. So then you want to see what is your business objectives, what are your pain areas. So generally you can do a customer mapping or an employee mapping and come up with what are the pain points within your organization for the use cases. Prioritize them, prioritize these use cases, identify the technologies, then create a business case bringing out the impact and start implementing them. So that's how you can go from fog, fear, and to start implementing things in your organization. Start with probably a proof of concept, but start. And so delivering tangible value is what we help our people who work, as part of the cohort, is identifying use cases, prioritizing unique use cases, communicating the value, building your AI strategy, helping you understand the essentials of governance, security, and things like that. So that's part of what we do in our uh, cohort. And if you want to join, I put up a QR code to check us out if you want, and it's right in the top. Okay, so that's what we do in the community, and that's all I had today. Let me bring in my community members again, and this time maybe more of them, and we'll chat and see if there's any questions we can talk about. So, all right. Again, the QR code is here if you want to check us out, check the community out. All right. So, okay. Hi, Neil.
Hi.
How are you? Thank you for joining. So, yeah. So, you've been monitoring LinkedIn. Any questions that we can answer? I think there's no chat on LinkedIn, right? That's some problem with the software.
There was not much of a question, but we obviously have some comments, and so
Okay.
that's what I was trying to monitor there. But yeah, nonetheless, it's been a great session, Nandan. In fact, as it always happens, that not there's not a single session that we don't learn something new. And I just recall a year back when I took this decision to join the community. I think that is the best decision I've taken in a long time. Whether it's a two-letter word starting with intelligent automation and then moving on to artificial intelligence.
Hmm.
It's always been a great journey at the cross section of thought leaders, industry thought leaders, as well as practitioners, which is very important. The people who have actually put this technology into practice and seen the value or experienced the value up close. And also along with our community members that we can freely interact and learn from each other. It's been a phenomenal journey for last 1 year or so. Thanks
Great.
to you and thanks the other members of this community.
Thank you for that, Neil, and thanks for joining today. Sachin, any thoughts on the governance aspects? Because we spoke about it in the enterprise, going from 0 to 1. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah,
Leadership.
I mean, yeah, and I kind of reinforce the what what Neil had stated. I mean, I get one of the biggest things I get out of this is uh, making minute adjustments to my delivery, how I deliver, what I deliver, and the approach I deliver it in changes
Right.
as quick as AI is changing. I guess if you want to use that analogy, um, the idea behind it is mainly because the way that the technology advances and the way that you go from deep learning and predictive AI and machine learning and digital twins and all the other all those things, right? Um, that's all. It's such a fluid space at this point where you're going, okay, well, we have to be ready for this. We have to be ready for that. The governance piece is interesting because it's not just about how things should be done or could be done, but it's a matter of why they should be done, right? And understanding the how it's going to benefit you, but also how do we make sure that we put the right guardrails up and and make sure we've done the things that we need to do as an organization, right? Like traditional data governance, right? Data governance has been around. Most organizations have has data governance, but now you have to put that machine learning model in there, and you have to put how is that part of the discussion, and going kind of in a more abstract thinking process of how else would it be looked at, because as this technology that I mean unfortunately we are never going to be in the future because the future is always happening ahead of us,
Right.
right? So we are always in the now. We don't know I can't imagine where we're going to be in 3 months versus 3 year versus 10 years, right? And that's where it goes into the much more into the neural networks, and I'm sure we'll be just thinking about making a phone call and it just happens and all that kind of fun stuff, right? And by then everyone's going to be fully chipped and we'll all be good to go at that point. But the
For sure.
idea is where you set your guidelines around this space. So the governance is going to be a critical mass. Understanding the risk, understanding those types of things, getting your house in order as those things are coming into play are going to be critical. If your goal as an organization and the organization you support is creating your own private data lake, right? And creating your own private network around your own large language model, then great. Make sure you set the right parameters and put the right security, the right GPUs, the right this, the right that, the right governance around it to make sure it's also being utilized appropriately and how it should be used. Because if you don't, and you allow everyone to do what they will, they will.
Yeah, true.
If you
Yeah.
give nobody any guidelines, they'll do everything that you can possibly imagine and then some.
Set the right guardrails, right? Like I know this company that I was talking about. What they did was first implement a Chat GPT for their organization. So they blocked all the other AI, which is the actual Chat GPT and the Claude and all that, and they have built one Chat GPT for their organization, which is using just their organization data, which was a start for them. And now you have co-pilots coming in, which will have that. So we have some few questions I see. So let's answer those questions. So Sundareshwaran Krishnamurthy, thanks for the question, sir. What's a good use case for actual implementation of Gen AI in finance and accounting? So we did show this matrix. So I just put that back in front. So you can see, report generation, summarizing company reports, formulas for spreadsheets, financial advice with chatbots. You can give a chatbot for financial advice, translating global market reports. So there are multiple use cases, and Sundaresh, we can talk about it offline if you want. But there's so many use cases that you can use in finance and accounting. Especially automation is a key area in finance.
I'll throw in a quick bit on that, Nandan.
Yeah.
The answer is it depends. Also,
Yeah, true.
it depends on your teams. It depends on the groups that you're working with. Finance and accounting are fantastic environments for it because it's rules based, right? Those are the general context of how is this based? How can we automate things? Can we look at where AI and technology can we use it to because it's all very, very structured in that context, right?
Mhm.
But you have to make sure that the groups that you're working with within those areas are also they have to be educated on how this technology is going to benefit them. If you do not do that, they will be adverse to this technology and will not support you in moving towards the right direction of automating and using AI within the context of those spaces. That is a critical thing that most organizations are just going, oh, we're going to put this into here without making sure that they have clear adoption from the groups that they're working with in that space, in their teams. So there has to be a lot of that done first to
Yes.
make sure we're all on the right page.
Setting the right culture. Yeah.
Yeah.
So another question from Dan Aldridge. Neil, you wanted to add something?
No, I just wanted to say that, if you have the success in finance, it's close to the CFO where the money
Yes.
stays. So you can show some, real value, and that will help us to, or anyone in this industry to actually scale that automation or AI, any of this technology across the organization.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
If that CFO's thought process is to get rid of people, the CFO's thought process is if we get rid of this, if we use this technology, we can eliminate people. That's not usually that's not the right way to think about
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
Agreed.
right?
Agreed. Yeah.
You have to look at how can we take who we have and what we have and enhance
And improve it.
what they do,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
improve what they're doing. Because
Agreed.
if we can make them more efficient in what they do and how they do it, and we can make that like a help desk or contact center or finance team
yeah.
go from what is 10 but could feel like 20 or 25, that's a big deal, right?
Great. Great.
Saving hours is money, Coach,
Absolutely.
Sachin, as.
So let's get to the next question. So Dan Aldrich, again, thank you, sir, for the question. What do you think is the most exciting application of AI in ERP systems? Is it Microsoft Copilot, SAP Joule, maybe? Yeah, agreed. I mean, Copilots would be one big part of every application, because the thing with Copilots is that it's got the context, right? Like when we were giving within the ICE, we were giving a context. The great thing is that the Copilots have the context, and so it can give you the better inputs for you, right? Now, within ERP, if you ask me what I'm most excited about, for me, most excitement would be when I see an AI first ERP. It can be SAP HANA too, which may probably becomes an AI first ERP with AI infused in it, or it can be newer applications that start with AI at its base. Okay, any thoughts there, gentlemen, before I read the next question?
It's kind of to the
I
reverse
believe
of.
one of the sorry, I'll
Go,
just finish off very
go ahead,
Go
quickly.
ahead.
please.
Go ahead, Neil.
One of the experience of using ERPs in my experience, that any new report generation always was a pain point, to go back to the drawing board and recode and things like that. I believe with the ability to code quickly, we would be able to take out those pain integrating with ERPs.
Agreed, agreed. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, the whole ABAP thing, right? Yeah. So let's talk about the next question. I think Sachin, this will be interesting to you. Emeka Nagondi. I hope I'm saying this right. Gondi. Thank you for your question, sir. So he says, so I recently helped our client put together a framework for an AI center of excellence, and I put together a team structure. In your opinion, what are the additional skill sets companies need to think of to get a program started and scaled beyond data scientists and analysts? My answer would be people, get your existing people trained in AI too, right? Like you were saying, build that culture. What would you add, Sachin?
Yeah, obviously the culture is a critical piece of it, right? Getting the right adoption from the folks on the team. Also, this is one of the things I see a lot of is they kind of default to a lot of what they're used to doing when it comes to creating a COE, technical experts in this, technical experts in that. But this is a space, and I mentioned it in the beginning that outreach is just IT, right? And outreach is just those teams, right? It's not just a matter of just defining, you know, just a here's business as usual type of folks, right? And who are the people that are related to your framework, right? Are they the stakeholders, the the business leads, the development folks, really understand who all this touches, and if there's things that touch marketing, right? Because some of this will go, hey, I remember having our marketing team reach out, and then they did a presentation showing how they're using marketing AI tools to simplify their subset of their journey, because what they would spend on design work and design efforts were reduced to a fraction of it, because they didn't have to they could use AI to generate a lot of the vision of what they were thinking about, right? So that's all going to be a critical part of this piece of it, because adoption across the board is going to also be critical. Otherwise, it just becomes another tool, right? But to that same context, kind of just taking a little bit step back, one of the biggest concerns from a risk perspective that I'm hearing from the CISOs I talk to is the how much of the AI technology is already in our house because of the OEMs we work with, right? So the Microsofts and the Googles, plus the ServiceNows and the Salesforces and Oracles and all in between, all have AI components in it. And so now organizations are going, well, what information are they taking from us? Now, have they always been taking data? Yes. And are there instances where you go, yeah, I want them to take our data because I want it to make a stronger house? Let's say the CrowdStrikes of the world or things like that, where they're taking data from all the areas of risk and potential
We
engagements.
are we are out of time, Sachin, but
Yeah,
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 so
yeah,
just finish up what you're saying.
yeah. No, and so just make sure you understand that that's going to be also a critical piece of that is making sure you have a good understanding of what's in your house that has the potential to go out from the existing partner ecosystem that you work with too. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Other than the data scientists and your technical people, you need to get the broader business to start
yeah,
using.
the people culture, big pieces of it. Cultural adaptation, empowerment, all that kind of stuff.
Great. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining. I hope this was useful. Again, check out our next cohort coming up next week. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us.